So, Charlie's Angels. The latest remake, written and directed by Elizabeth Banks. And this is a much different Charlie's Angels. For one thing, they make it pretty clear right from the get-go that they're kind of taking this franchise back to be more more about female empowerment. Now, initially, this film kind of it starts off stumbling so hard. Like I had like a little bit of a twinge of fear while I started watching this, thinking, oh no, it's just gonna be one note throughout, because it establishes that it establishes the three leading ladies who are the part of the spy organization of the Townsend Agency, who are essentially the angels who work for the mysterious Charlie. And within like the first few scenes were like a little bit troubling because like the first scene, it's action packed. It's wonderfully staged, but the villain they're tracking down is essentially like an old fashioned like rich misogynist who thinks that women shouldn't work, and then of course one woman kicks his ass. Then we get to the title sequence, and I swear it looks like they just went and grabbed every B-roll they could download of little girls across the globe. And it's clearly meant, it's clearly just in here just to showcase, an inspiration to little girls, because there are a few little girls in the movie, but they don't really play a part of the plot, and the footage we're shown doesn't really connect with anything. So it's just there to, be blatant female empowerment. Now, to its credit, I could have liked the film to this degree, because the next scene that follows is, a very slimy and creepy boss who undermines the talents of a woman and basically goes to like inappropriate touching of her and kind of just laughing her off. Now I kind of cringed with this because like if the film were just going to be like a straight kind of almost kind of like like misandrous female revenge type picture, that could have been fun. But I realized no, this is a PG-13 action film. I don't think it's going to go that far. And so I had this kind of fear that I was just kind of going to phone in this element of female empowerment, that it wouldn't really weave itself into the script and just kind of be kind of more placed there like PSAs. But then something amazing happens. Something amazing happens. Gradually, as this film keeps going on, it starts surprising. Like it really surprised me. The more it went on, there was more chemistry between the characters. The more it went on, the fights got more exciting. They got more intricately staged. The twists got better. Everything. This is a film that I think the best way to describe this film is that it starts off stumbling so hard that it's almost kind of like it's almost kind of like it's shoving as much female empowerment into that first act, so that like all the complainers can like get out and leave the room, and then everyone who stays behind, they get to have the real film. They get to see some actually very competently staged action scenes, very exciting scenes, some great wit here and there. Like the one-liners start off pretty damn terrible, and then as the film goes along, they actually get progressively better. And honestly, for a film that starts off that bad and then has a great ending, I'm all for a film just starting off terrible and then having a great ending, because then it kind of works its magic on you. So let's talk about the cast here. So the current angels who are working for the Townsend Agency is Kristen Stewart playing Sabina. She's kind of got the short haircut, and she's kind of like the more fun, kind of like sassy type of assassin who always has like the best lines. She puts on the most disguises. She has the most fun, obviously. Not kind of like in like a like manic pixie dream girl type of fun, but just has like the funniest lines. She has a lot of great chemistry with Ella Balinska, who plays Jane, who's basically the no nonsense angel here. She's a former MI6 agent. She doesn't really make a lot of jokes. She feels like she's somewhat like stuck in her ways and can't find the humor in anything. So they have a lot of great chemistry they play off of there. And then you have Naomi Scott playing Elena, this sort of scientist who is roped into this spy plot and kind of has to like find her way, basically keep up with these two other women who are far more experienced with like gunfighting and martial arts and spy and using spy tech, that she has to kind of like, catch up. I mean, and she kind of does, she's apparently taking Krav Maga, so she knows a little bit of she knows a little bit of her way to around a scene. The Bosley of this film is played interestingly enough by Elizabeth Banks. She's both directing this film and directing The Angels. And she's pretty fun as well too. And it's great too because she's in control here. There's a little bit of like a spy plot of like a mole in the inside. Like, I mean, the plot itself is fairly standard of a spy picture here. I mean, you have this secret organization. They have all this fancy tech. You have a whole bunch of scenes that are basically meant for globetrotting and to go to all these exotic locations and to use all this spy tech. The central plot itself involves a MacGuffin of some new high-tech weapon that, it's not intended as a weapon, but it could assassinate anyone in the world, and a mastermind wants to use it for his own sinister deeds. Standard spy stuff. But like I said, what works here is the character chemistry. I think these actors have a really good connection to them. They slowly work their magic so that they can actually be comfortable enough in some very intense action scenes and still have some funny stuff to say along the way. I gotta admit, I really enjoyed the car chase is pretty competently shot, but then there's a fight scene at a rock quarry that I thought was just so perfectly staged. Like, there's a great moment where Naomi Scott's character is cornered in an office, and she starts whipping a goon with computer mice and bashing his head in with anything she can find in this little office. And another great scene where Kristen Stewart is actually fighting one of the goons inside a machine that's going to ground up rocks, and she's got to get out of there just in time before the rocks crush her and the goon to death. Very wonderfully staged. And I gotta admit, since like a lot of like big, action blockbusters seem to rely on a lot of like over the top computer graphics, stuff like Fast and the Furious and stuff like that, it's almost kind of quaint to see just, a film that finds like some great sets and just stages action that doesn't have to rely on the biggest explosions or the most over the top stunt or the most over the top kill. And it just feels like a good old-fashioned action film. I mean, there's some great shootouts, there's some great assassination scenes, some stakeout scenes, like car chases, martial arts scenes that are just beautifully staged here. You have a few great contributing actors here. Damon Hasu stops by once again for a very small supporting role. I love seeing him in films, but I saw him show up on screen and I'm just like, oh man, he's not going to be here long, is he? No, he's not going to be here. I did like the use of Patrick Stewart here as a former Bosley. Patrick Stewart, he feels like it seems like anytime you get Patrick Stewart, you always want to do something really crazy and really over the top here. I think they use him just for the right amount of degree in this film that's a little bit comedic, but mostly focused on the spy plot. They make great use of him. The tone throughout, I think, kind of, of course, we jumped to all these exotic locations, so there's obviously a great energy to it. But I think it rather works because, like, as the film goes on, it stops relying so much on just, trying to find funny stuff. Like, they don't stop scenes just to find something funny. It feels like as they go along, they find funny stuff to say, and it just kind of works its magic, where it doesn't feel like they're trying too hard to be too funny and just relying mostly on the action to keep it going, which is great. I think the action is very well staged here. There's a lot of fun stuff to like look for in the backgrounds and stuff, especially I mentioned the little girls, but I'm kind of glad that they have that sequence in the beginning, because then it makes you pay attention, because there are like a few little girls in the background and some small supporting little roles here. Like at one point there's a scene where they're going through a hotel, and I swear that there's a little girl there who's with her mom. She's just in the background, but I'm imagining her stage direction was just stay there and just, kind of, nod your head a little bit. And she just flicks her hair every which way. You could tell like she was trying to ham that up. I adored that kid. There's another little scene where they're making faces at a little girl, which is kind of funny. And there's almost kind of like this like sweet innocence to it too. Like these girls kick ass, but there's also this kind of like ooh, I'm not too sure I wanna kill this guy. Did I kill that guy? Maybe I did. So there's like a little bit of like a standoff nature there, where there's more of like an innocence and likability to them, and as opposed to just being like straight spies that like murder a lot of goons. Like they try not to murder goons as much as possible. It doesn't always work out that way, but it's the nature of the job sometimes. So yeah, I mean, it's in terms of like a spy plot, nothing new here. But in terms of like the way the action is staged, which, let's face it, it's an action film, you're gonna be expecting that, and the way that they're staged, I think are just exceptional. Like I was really getting into the action as it went along. I mean, the first car chase they get into, it's all right. It's a little bit overblown, just a little bit. I mean, they don't do anything too crazy with it. But then once we get to like the rock quarry scene, I was all in this film. I was like, yeah, you know what? That's a perfectly staged action scene. It knows just when to make the joke with the right jokes. It knows just how to use slapstick. It knows how to show the heroic elements of these three women well. And then it leads into like a great twist. The twists here are actually pretty well set up and laid out, that they're at least a little bit surprising as they go along. Also, be sure to stay during the credits, because I swear, the credits are just like a non-stop cameo galore. I think, I'm trying to remember, I think they have like Ronda Rousey, and I believe Kate McKinnon is in one of them. They go through a lot of different female actors by the end credit scene there. So yeah, this film obviously wants to be an action picture that wants to have fun with this material. And though it really gets off on the wrong foot in the first act, it greatly recovers by the second act. And that's because it has enough faith in the action that's staged and the chemistry between these characters that it ultimately just works by the end. It just feels like a well-oiled action machine by the end of the picture here, with just enough interesting spy twists to really get you engaged with it. So I actually had a lot of fun with this film. So Charlie's Angels, 3.5 out of 5 stars.